Hey everyone, this is Dan with Theta Trend. Today is Tuesday, February 23rd, 2016. It's about 2:20 p.m. or so. The market's closed 20 minutes ago. We're in Mountain Time. So the Russell 2000 ended the day down about 0.94% today at 1012 and 15 cents. And this was sort of the little bit of a pullback that we talked about yesterday. One of the things I said is at the end of the day yesterday, it seemed as though there was a lack of conviction and nobody was really stepping up to buy the market, even though it had pushed up to these new highs. And it really ended the day kind of weak. And then I said maybe a little bit of a pullback in here today wouldn't be unexpected, and that's exactly what we saw. We don't like to predict price, but we do like to be aware of it and we like to anticipate it. But our job really is to react to the changes that take place and whatever plays out. So one of the things that I do want to point out is that obviously on the daily time frame here, which is what we're looking at, price is in a state of decline. So we have a pattern of lower highs and lower lows, and even though prices popped up and above what is the 20-day simple moving average, the green line here, and also the 10-day, it's still below the declining 50-day and also the declining 200-day moving average. But on the shorter term time frame, things are a little bit healthier, at least for now. And that can certainly change at any minute because the bigger picture here is definitely bearish. One of the things that I drew today is this trend line coming down from some of the recent highs at the end of 2015. And suppose the Russell was to continue up a little bit higher. We saw that it backed off today, but it didn't on the shorter term time frame violate any pattern of higher highs and higher lows. So by definition on the short term time frame it is still in a temporary uptrend. So if it was to squeeze back up and above here and even get up and above this 1035 level that we've been watching, which was this prior high, it does have the potential to come into resistance here at this rising trend line, which goes back to the low from 2009 after the end of the 2008 crash. And so it could potentially come into resistance there. It could also potentially come into resistance at the declining 50-day simple moving average. And if it continued even a little bit further along, it might hit this declining trend line from back in the end of 2015. And we certainly don't know that the market's going to stop and reverse at any of these points, but it is just something to be aware of. And for the time being, this little pattern on the short-term time frame of higher highs and higher lows continues. And so we've dropped down now to the 65-minute. And I just want to point out what we've been talking about. We've been watching this level here from about 1016 up to 1020, and we did see the market get up and above it, and it held. And then towards the end of the day yesterday, it started to fade into that level, and that was why we sort of expected a little bit of a pullback here today. And we did get that, but the market ended up here still at 1012. It didn't even quite make it down to that 1010 level that I said is a sort of a target if it breaks through that. And it came down slightly, but I think tomorrow what we're going to need to see is if this level holds here down around 1007 and also certainly all the way down at 1000, if these levels can hold up, it does seem and it begins to seem more likely that the market could squeeze a little bit higher up to this 1035 level and certainly back to the 1025 first. But beyond that, taking it up to that 1035, and then we'll see if it can move a little bit higher up into that 1050, 1060. But as long as price remains above this rising 5-day simple moving average, the shorter term perspective is somewhat bearish, or bullish rather. And we really haven't violated any of the pattern of higher highs and higher lows in here. And so if we broke down below this 1007, if we broke down below this 1000 and pulled all the way back to the 10-day simple moving average, that would certainly be a sign maybe that the market's going to pause or at least come down here, potentially test this 985, the lower bound of this box. But for the shorter term time frame, it still seems somewhat bullish in here, unfortunately. I would certainly rather that it pulled back a little bit more, but the market doesn't generally do what I want it to do. So let's go ahead and take a look at the position as it sits right now. And the main reason I say that I'd like it to pull back a little bit just has to do with the position itself. So this is the March CIB as it sits at the close today. And we have price here at 10.12.15. And again, the price slices are set so that the one-day move to the upside would be a 1.2% gap higher, and on the downside, we're looking at what would be a 3% overnight gap lower. And it's certainly not to say that the market can't go further than that, but just to give us an idea of where the position sits if we were to see a big move in either direction as of the open tomorrow. So at the close today, the delta on the trade is -477, the gamma is -0.65, theta is 54.57, Vegas negative 107, and the open profit on the trade is about $315. This is actually the best print I saw in the position all day. For a good portion of the day, it seemed like the trade was trading right around the open profit yesterday. But the way this position is sitting right now, some of those levels that we were talking about, 1,000 is right here. The deeper pullback to 985, 990 would be down into here somewhere. So if the market was to come back to here, what we'd probably be wanting to do is take off this upper butterfly centered around 1020. We've been in this trade for a while. We are at the profit target essentially. And my goal now is sort of to let this run a little bit longer just to pay for some of the commissions, because this has been a phenomenally expensive month. The person who's made the most money this month has been Thinkorswim on this trade. But, sometimes that's the way that it goes when you have a lot of adjusting higher and lower and higher. And that was certainly what we saw play out. But if the market does continue down to, say, that 985, 990 area, the first thing to do would be to get rid of that 1020 butterfly. And so I've put in an order right here. And so this was the 970, 1020, 1065 butterfly that was put on just yesterday. And so this position itself already has an open profit. And so if we were to take that off, we would end up in a position that looks something like that. And certainly we could have done that at the close. And the trade-off here is if we do that, our theta gets knocked down pretty significantly. We lose about $20 in theta. If we do make that adjustment. If we were to do that, we could also go ahead and reverse Harvey the trade and pull in one of these. There's a long put here at 1040 and another at 1035. You can kind of see the bend in the expiration graph there. But if we were to pull in that 1040 down to 1035 and also bring in this 925 up to 935, what we could do is we could sort of start to flatten out the T+0 line. And you can see here, if we did that, and then the market was to move higher on us, we'd still be relatively okay for some time. The trade-off, obviously, is that our theta gets truncated in half at that point, and we do look better on the downside, which is nice, but we're going to end up having to sit in this trade a little bit longer if we make those adjustments. So what I'm doing right now is I'm essentially watching the market very closely, and I'm just waiting to see where price kind of leads us, or if it's just going to meander around right now. I'm trying to let the trade get up a little bit of money, but at the same time, I don't want to give back a lot of the profits that have finally come into the position. So I am keeping a pretty close eye on things just to make sure nothing needs to be done quickly. If we hop over to the futures, we did see that the Russell 2000 futures closed the week below the week-to-date volume-weighted average price. So that this level up here around 1016, this is the week-to-date volume-weighted average price. And you can see the futures continued lower, and they're sitting right down around this 1008 level, I guess. You can call it 1008, 1009, something like that. So it wouldn't be surprising when the futures start trading a little bit later tonight to see them push down and break through that level. And again, last week's volume weighted average price is down around that 1,000 level, so that might be a logical place for the market to pull back to just to test it. It looks like the futures closed sort of sitting here right here on the 5-day simple moving average. We'll have to see what happens. The other trade that was open yesterday is the April position, and we'll hop over and take a look at that. I'm going to hide the simulations here, and we're going to select on all of the RUT and all of the IWM. And this trade is doing just fine. We had, the little bit of a pullback. It was put on with the market up around 1022 or so, and now it's down at 1012. So we've come off about 1% since the trade was put on, which generally helps it early on. And it did, and it looks like we're showing a delta of -1, gamma -0.05, essentially negligible. Theta is only $6 a day, or $5.92. Vega's -23. And the open profit is showing $52.82. So it has a little bit of an open profit right now. If the market turns around and comes back higher, a little bit of this could come out of the trade, certainly. But for the time being, this one is also looking pretty good and sitting healthy. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. There are some key levels here that we're watching on that 65-minute time frame. And the only reason, again, that we're so concerned about the shorter-term time frames at this point is that we need to protect the profits that have come into the position. Our job's not to predict where the market's going to go. It's just to react to the changes as they play out. So that's all I have for tonight. I hope it helps. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, info@thetatrend.com. Thanks for watching.